All right, hello, third, fourth, and fifth grade. Welcome to art class with Mrs. Winnicky. Today we're going to be making a paper sculpture, and I already started one. It's not done yet. You can see it from the side there. And we're going to be focusing on using lines to make this sculpture. So right here I have the elements of art. These are all the things, the tools in your toolbox that you use to put together to make a piece of artwork. So pretty much impossible to make a piece of artwork unless you use some of these elements of art. So line, we all know that line is in a lot of artwork. Shape and form, so shapes are two-dimensional and forms are three-dimensional. We've talked about this before, but for example, a circle is flat and two-dimensional, and a sphere is like a basketball and round. Color, so some artworks have lots of color, some might be more black and white, but that's all still considered color. Texture is the way something feels. Space is the distance between things. And values light to dark, the variations between. So again, we're going to focus mainly on line today. So I'm going to show you how to make your paper sculpture, but first let's look at this little page I have here. So this has all different types of lines on it, and by no means does it have every type of line, but just some. So straight lines, these are straight lines that are vertical, ones that are horizontal, these are diagonal straight lines, wavy lines, zigzag, curly, curved are just like straight lines but bent a little bit, spiral, they go all the way around. You can even have lines that are made of shapes, so like dotted, dashed, or these shape lines here. As long as they're kind of in a row and they lead your eye, that can be considered a line in art. And then you can make your lines thick or thin. And like I said, there's a bunch more choices of different line types, but that's what I drew out. So you can probably see I have right here, hanging off, what type of line is this blue piece right here? Did you say spiral? Good job. And then this line right here, he's actually doing two things now because of the way I put him onto the base of my sculpture. He's a straight line, but if we look at him from the side, he's curved, okay? And this is a curved wavy line now, all right? So what you're gonna need is you're gonna need a base for your sculpture. I used like a thin piece of cardboard, almost like cereal box, because I was using thicker paper, and so I wanted my thick paper to have something nice to stick onto. You can also just have your base be a piece of printer paper. You can cut all your lines from whatever you have around. You can cut it from another piece of printer paper. If you are going to cut it from white paper, use some crayons or markers or something first to color, and then cut your lines out so that we can see the difference between your lines and the base. And you'll need something to stick everything together with. So I'm going to use tape, and if you want to use glue, that's fine too, but you got to hold glue for a while. Tape, you just stick it on, move along, except for that guy right there. He didn't want to stick down, so he's got several pieces of tape on him, okay? So here's another piece that I cut. This was from junk mail. So you can cut stuff from cereal boxes, cardboard, junk mail, paper, whatever you have. I need to figure out how I want to put him or her or it or they on there. So I think I'm going to try it like that. But here's what I want to do. I want to take the two ends, I want to fold them to make a tab. Because if you don't, your paper really has a lot of like spring to it and it wants to pull off. So if you put a tab so that it has a flat part, it'll make it so when you put your tape there, or your glue on the bottom of it, it'll stick a little bit better, or at least that's the hope. So I'm going to put a little piece of tape on the tab. I'm going to try not to touch the tape too much, because if you touch the tape a lot, you get oils from your finger on it and then it doesn't want to stick. I'm going to put it there. And the thicker the paper you use, the more you might have to tape it or glue it, because it's just stronger. It wants to kind of pop off the bottom. Okay, so there's my zigzag. I have my spiral here, and since my spiral had this little tab up top, I wanted it to just hang. I can pull it apart a little bit more. But I want to show you how to cut a spiral, because I think a lot of you would probably want to do that, and it's a little tricky to cut. I think you can probably, you know, if I want to cut a wave, I can draw the wave first and then cut it, and then I do a parallel line, which means a line that stays the same distance away from the first line all the way down, so that I end up with a wavy line. And it's actually become a shape in itself now. There's another wave. So let's do a spiral. So for a spiral, draw it first. Take your pencil, come in from the outside of the paper and act like you're going to make a circle, but don't. Start to come in a little bit and just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. All right. So when I cut, I like to get rid of extra paper that's hanging off, because it's going to make it more difficult for me with that flapping around. So I'm just going to cut as close to my pencil line as I can. If you don't cut directly on your pencil line with your lines that you're making, it's no big deal. All the way around. I'm just going to cut this part off right there. And then I'm going right back to the pencil line. Okay, and remember, thumb in the small hole, fingers in the big hole of your scissors. When you're cutting, open the mouth of the scissors up wide and then chomp down real slow. And I don't really ever go to the end of the scissors. I just open back up again. And you got to be careful, because it's very easy to just hack your spiral apart. So get that piece of paper out of the way so it's not in your scissors. And I'm turning the paper. Instead of trying to turn my arm in the scissors, I'm just turning the paper. And the smaller it gets, the less I open up the scissors. And hopefully I just don't cut it apart. Okay? And you need to use whatever scissors mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever says are okay for you to be using. So I know I'm using big scissors, but you probably have your own pair of scissors at home, maybe slightly smaller than this, that you should be using. And there we go. There's my spiral. Okay, so I could tape this down to the bottom, maybe put something underneath it to pop it up. You guys are creative. You got those good artist's imagination. So think of ways that you can put it on. I want you to do about 10 lines on your sculpture. So 10 pieces of paper that you've cut out. And yeah, take a picture of it when you're done. Turn it in on Google Classroom and attach it. Add the photo as an attachment and have an awesome time. Have fun.